We're going to call the regular meeting of the Florence Planning and Zoning Commission being held on Thursday, March 16th to order. We'll start out with roll call. Maricela?
Yeah. Right, we have our liaisons Mendoza and Buchalado here. Commissioner Vanderstar will not be here. Commissioner Capolongo?
Present.
Commissioner Pro?
Present.
Vice Chair Adam?
Here.
Chairman Frost?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, and I've asked Commissioner Pro to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with freedom and justice for all.
Thank you. Start out with our call to the public. Read this short paragraph. Call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticisms made, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the commission shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. With that said, is there anyone from the public that would like to address us this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is discussion, approval, or disapproval of the minutes from our regular meeting conducted on January 5th. So,
Nothing here.
I had one correction I'd like to make for the record. So on page 3, halfway down the page where it says Vice Chair Adam left the meeting at 6:25, I would like to correct that to say Vice Mayor Mendoza, Council Member Buchalado, and Vice Chair Kathy Adams left the meeting at the mayor's request for a meeting with the new town manager. I didn't just walk out of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't sound like it was optional to us, so we were requested to leave the meeting to go to meet the town manager. Thank you.
it's a good correction. And I mentioned it to the team up here, but I had sent a few things, grammatical and whatnot, into Maricela earlier to make corrections to the minutes as well. And with those corrections, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the meeting minutes of January 5th, 2023 with the corrections as noted.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Adam and a second by Commissioner Pro. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. That was passed 4-0. New business. Presentation, approval of conditions or denial of a preliminary plat 6-month extension request by Langley for the preliminary plat of Freedom Farms parcels A through D. This was P&Z-20-19. Maricela, do you have a staff report?
So today's requested by one of the landowners, Langley Freedom Farms LLC, 6 months extension of the original preliminary plat, which first came forward February 4th, 2021, and then it was reapproved for a year in March 17th, 2022. That year approval will be up tomorrow. So we received a letter from Langley for a 6-month extension on that preliminary plat, and this is for the zoned planned unit development area known as Freedom Farms. It is located here in this photo on the southeast side of Judd and Felix after this piece right here. Now parcels A, B, C, and D are the areas they are looking at in terms of this preliminary plat. Nothing has changed from last year to this year in terms of what the preliminary plat has. So there's A and B. There will still be 98 residential lots. The ranging of lot sizes will stay the same, as well as the density. There'll be 165 lots for parcel B, 4.5 dwelling units per acre. Both are medium residential zonings. And then here's C and D. I turned it so it's more of what you see in the main photo on the preliminary plat. And those is 113 residential lots and 147 residential lots between C and D. And as I said before, nothing has changed between the two. This will total in 523 lots, a combined gross area of 151.36 acres. They met all of the minimum necessary open space, setback requirements, and lot dimensions, and they come out to 3.46 dwelling units per acre, which is below that 3.5. Town engineer has looked at it and approved of the street width, design, and layout. There was some comments, I believe, on the main Silverdale intersection, but those were to be sorted out in the final, and it had a total open space of 48.38 acres. In the last approval, there were comments and conditions. So I just reattached them to this extension approval. The first condition was that development of the subdivision shall comply with all applicable town codes, including applicable planning, building, and fire and engineering requirements. The developer/property owner is responsible for all applicable street dedications and improvements at the time of the subdivision is developed, except as otherwise approved by the town of Florence. Final plans for right-of-way and easement dedications and/or abandonments, which may be provided via the final plat or other means, are subject to the review and approval of the town engineer prior to the final plat or approval by the town council. The developer/property owner may reduce the number of lots or widen lots within the subject preliminary plat area during the effective approval period without requiring additional town approvals, provided there is no net increase in the subdivision density, no reduction in open space, and the changes do not require changes in any street designs. There was also a condition to eliminate the public open space west of lots 71, 72, 73, and 10 through 16. Additional comments included the parcel map showing the boundary between C and D, the bottom of sheet 8 and 39, the match line states see page 10 instead of sheet 9, it should say sheet 9. Pages 11, 12, and 12 of 31. At the time, Chairman Frost commented on the hydrant spacing and asked for that to be adjusted in the final plat, and that all future landscaping areas and tracks are to be usable, playable turf, not for aesthetics, and the slopes do not have turf as well, and they not be so straight. All of these will be applied in this approval of the 6-month extension. They're looking for the 6-month extension because they haven't gotten a developer yet, but they are heading in the direction towards a final plat. And thus, they just needed that approval. I do have a representative from Langley here. She will speak once I finish this final part. The Planning and Zoning Commission may move to approve with the listed conditions or deny the 6-month extension of the preliminary plat for Freedom Farms parcels A through D. I will now have Jennifer Ruby come on up and say a couple of words.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Ruby. I'm with Langley Properties. For the record, our address is 2738 East Guadalupe Road in Gilbert 85234. As Maricela outlined, we represent all of the property owners. We are also one of the partial property owners. We had this site, these first 4 parcels covered by the preliminary plat in escrow with a top 5 actually, public home builder. For quite a while, they did extensive due diligence, and with the changes in the market over the last, depends on who you ask, 6 months or a year when it started, they elected not to move forward with the transaction. So what we're now evaluating, as Maricela explained, is interviewing engineers to move into final plat and CDs. It is not something we contemplated doing on this project because we had a builder who was interested in buying it. We planned on giving them the time to do that work, but now that the builders really aren't going after property at this phase of entitlement, we want to make that evaluation. I can't stand here today and tell you absolutely for sure that we're moving to final plat. We have not made that decision, but that's what we're evaluating, and it becomes a lot riskier once we're out of approval with the preliminary plat to invest that additional money. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or if there's additional information that would be helpful.
Commission members, any questions, comments?
Just my ignorance, should this not happen in the next 6 months, do we go for another extension, or what's the process?
So my understanding of the code is that we could request another 6-month extension, but that it is at your discretion.
Maricel, is there any limit on the number of extensions that can be?
In the code, there is no limit of extensions. Hopefully by that time, we have the amendment that also puts the approval of a preliminary plat to 2 years instead of just 1. So maybe we could even go for that and then have it for 2 years and stop. We don't have to keep doing 6-month extensions every single time.
That's a great point. I had forgotten that the town is working on that code update, which the 2 years is a little more consistent with other municipalities for these types of approvals.
And I do recall that we discussed something like this before, and we did talk about a limit to the number of extensions.
Yeah.
In your circumstance, I completely get it. It's other circumstances, maybe if I had hair, I would have pulled it out. But this, I get it, because you never know. Tomorrow, the whole
Yeah, there need to be some limits and some sense of reasonableness for sure.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, have you moved forward with any of the development, the actual engineering plans, water, sewer, et cetera?
No, we're procuring estimates or proposals for that work now.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Getting some feedback. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
I see no reason not to.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Capalongo for approval of the extension and a second by Commissioner Pro. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Catch it between the hum. That's what it was. It was the suspense background music. Okay. Just in case it's my microphone, I'm going to say this and then turn it off. So we have agenda item number 7 is presentation information only. Item A is transportation issues. So Maricel, looks like you're ready to do that.
Okay. So full transportation discussion I have planned for April 6th meeting. I'm going to have the county come down and give a presentation on their roadway improvements, and then hopefully I can also get the towns as well so we can have both there. I do have a brief update on current roadway situations. For Attaway, that is projected by Coolidge to open on April 9th. So that will be before Country Thunder, which is the weekend of April 13th to the 16th. So watch out for those RVs while you're getting home during that time period. There will be ongoing work on 79B near the 287Y. That may be reopened before or around Country Thunder to at least 1 lane. It hasn't given us a full opening yet, but that is their current plan, is to open that back up around then. The bridge work is looking to be done in May/June. There will be overnight closures on Tuesday, and this coming up Tuesday and Wednesday. And that's going to start around 8 p.m. on like Tuesday night, and then they'll reopen in the morning. And then 8 p.m. Wednesday night, they'll close it again, and then they'll reopen in the morning. As for the widening of Hunt Highway west of Attaway Road, the town is currently looking at completing this project. The schedule is to start 2023, so this year, around the budget time. We have currently applied for a state grant to help widen that. So going from the Attaway to Hunt Highway intersection, eastward and a little bit westward as well, turn in 2 lanes. So 2 lanes, so 4 lanes total, 2 lanes on each side, and that'll go into the 6 lanes as you head upward into the Anthem area. They're also looking at reconstructing the intersection at Attaway Road and Hunt Highway. It currently isn't at a 90-degree angle, so part of this project will to rework that intersection so it is. And I have just a little handout here to give to you afterwards that gives a little bit more complete information on that. But that project of widening Hunt Highway is ongoing, and we're working towards getting the funding for it and plan designs. That concludes that transportation update.
It must be this microphone.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear when this is going to start. What did you say? There was a date. Did you say a date when this is planned to be?
There isn't a date, but we're planning to start everything this year, 2023. So we're getting the money. We were going to do the designs, and then the actual construction, I'm not sure in terms of timeline.
So, thank you. I think I was the one that started asking for the transportation, the roadways, and that was before last week's debacle. I think that where I'm coming from is a much broader look than the individual road work and thank you for the update, of course that's important, but in planning and zoning, my concern is that as we're asked to approve major new master plan communities with 2, 3, 4, 10,000 new houses, the impact on roads. And you know, I know this town has gotten a lot of very good software to help us project and do our jobs. It seems to me pretty rudimentary to get some software that you can add load onto a road and say, between the hours of 5:30 and 7, you can expect to see this kind of load on a road so that you can then feed back to us, is it reasonable to build a new master plan community with no plan to widen that road, right? I know it's which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and what I'm asking for is a joint meeting of the minds, the county, the state, and most of all, led by Florence. I get it if we have planners in other places and however we do that, but the impact of not having somebody who lives here and has to deal with that traffic, and gosh forbid there's an emergency. I'm not understanding how we let that happen because I don't understand how police or ambulance could get through. So I'm very concerned as we move forward because I don't have the knowledge to say, oh yeah, I think Hunt Highway could take another 1 or 2 communities. I would like to have some sort of modeling and base it on some sort of, I mean, people do this all the time, right, for traffic planners. How does the state make up their minds when and how? I understand it's always about budget, but there's gotta be some rhyme or reason that would help us when we're just trying to understand, because you know, of course we want Florence to develop, but every single person who lives here right now will be impacted negatively. That's just the state we're in. And that's not a good thing, right? Because it will take time for those rooftops to drive retail and amenities. So for the first 5 years, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So let's just put the planning back into planning and zoning so we at least have a game plan. I know we don't control all this, but I'd like to have a game plan. So my worst nightmare is creating Hunt Highway on 287. Some of us drive that every day, and you already can't get out of Centennial and make a left. So I'm very concerned, and that would be the discussion. I'd like to have. I'm fine, I would love to hear what everybody does, but I really don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of individuals. I want to look at this holistically for the town of Florence and how it impacts our people. And if the manufacturing is going to be in Coolidge and Casa Grande, we kind of already know that's where the jobs are going to be. So we kind of already know that's where the traffic's going to go, right? So there are things that we already know that, to me, we should be planning for. And we have a lot of backcountry roads getting out of Florence to Coolidge that could be developed around 287 in the bigger arterials. But I don't know that anyone's looking at that. Thank you.
Maricel, let me ask you a quick question. I know, and we have a developer here that might be able to comment on this too at invitation. Each development that comes through, I know, is required to do a traffic impact study.
Yes.
And maybe where we are getting, tripping over ourselves is where we put the boundary on that study. If we put the boundary on the study in the immediate proximity of the development, then we get one impact, and we don't understand the bigger impact and how that ripples out. And so I just haven't dug into that situation with the town to know what's the bubble when we ask the developers to do a traffic impact study. How far out do they reach to see where their impacts are? And if you'd like to speak to that,
I'd be happy to if you'd like me to.
yeah.
So we typically, and I'll be before you relatively soon with one of the big new master plans that I think Madam Vice Chair is referring to, we typically are looking at adjacent roads. So for example, I have a piece that's about 1,600 acres that's in the town of Florence, runs from Adamsville south to Vacayenne to the Coolidge border. We wouldn't look at Hunt Highway, for example, for that project. Although it's absolutely a valid comment that traffic in and out of town coming to this new community will probably also use Hunt Highway or 79, for example. But those wouldn't necessarily be roads, I shouldn't say necessarily, those would not simply be roads that our traffic study would look at. My recollection is that the town did a regional transportation study relatively recently, and Maricelo can correct me if I'm wrong, but within the last few years, I think, because it was one of the documents we took a hard look at for our planning, and that to me feels more like what Vice Chair Adam is discussing, sort of a higher level planning versus the traffic counts and the level of service. You hear us traffic engineers talk about level of service, and to be clear, I am not a traffic engineer. I can barely communicate with them. But that's what they look at, level of service for intersections. They look at traffic signal warrants is a big one, how much traffic on the roads before a signal is necessary. But it doesn't necessarily look at the more broader reaching impacts that I think is really what you're hoping to take a closer look at. So I hope that's a little bit helpful.
That's very helpful, thank you. Now if I just got to figure out how to use this microphone.
Oh, I can't.
Okay, we'll try that. Yeah, I appreciate that, and to that point, that's kind of what I thought, is there was just the adjacent roads and the impacts, but maybe we need to step out just a little bit further, because I know when a traffic engineer assesses the impacts for a traffic signal, they don't look just at that area, they look at adjacent arterials within a certain perimeter around there, and maybe we need to ask the development community to not only do the adjacent roads, but maybe look a mile in each direction or a mile and a half in each direction, just to look at what those impacts will be, so that we at least can see what some of those ripples are, and if they're there, what we need to be looking at to deal with that, or at least inform people in the short term that, yeah, the town has this going on, but understand for the next 6 months, your morning rush hour is going to be a D condition, not a B condition. So.
Well, I think, and I appreciate you mentioning that traffic study. I was not aware of it, so it'd be great. I think that'd be helpful, but that's a static point in time. We here on planning or zoning are projecting, right? A lot of your developments won't hit the roads till 5, 10 years out or maybe longer. And so that to me gives us time, right? I get it, there's only so much you can do. We're kind of stuck with Hunt Highway right now because they can't turn it around on a dime. But I want to not create another bottleneck like Hunt Highway 10 years from now.
And hopefully, if we're doing it right, our traffic impact study should, or the traffic master plan traffic study should be based on our general plan, because we know what to expect in those areas, what density of residential, commercial, industrial, and that plan should be based on that.
I think too, unfortunately, when I moved here, there was only one traffic signal, and I took great pride in saying I lived in a one-light town. Now we have several, and unfortunately, the way they come to pass, like the one that's coming out on 87 in Skousen Road, is people have to die, right? I mean, you can study it for years, and it's always been known there's issues, and I don't know if it's 1, 2, or 3 fatalities, but that's when we get the lights.
And unfortunately, it's based on the litigious nature of the system, and those signals have to meet what the traffic engineering community calls warrants.
I think the other reason I wanted to bring this up, if you've read what's going on with the Board of Supervisors, the county, and I applaud Vice Mayor Mendoza, I think I misspoke earlier, because I heard you speak up and say, if the county is in control of so many major roads that we count on, then someone needs to get closer to the county and start letting them know we're here. And I agree. And what they said at the last meeting was we have to pass that half-cent tax in 2025 because that's what's being used for our roads today. The HERF funds are down because not as many people we don't drive gas-guzzling cars, so that's, that money is what we use to keep our roads up, and they are saying right now the most they can do is maintain the roads. They are not talking any new roads. That's scary to me with what the build-out we're talking about is, right? So somewhere we have to have a meeting of the minds.
Yeah, traffic is always an interesting subject, and Maricel, you can see there's a lot of interest in it up here, so hopefully we've given you some food for thought anyway. So with that, any future agenda items or updates that have requested the Commission? No? Maricel, anything to prep us for that's coming up?
The next meeting, we will have at least one temporary use permit for a model home complex, 2-year, for one of D.R. Horton's Unit 33A. We might have a second one for Western Crossings. Depends on how soon they get that to me and how we can notify the public. As I said before, we'll have the county come in and do a short presentation discussion on their plans for transportation in the future, and then we are working with the administrative part of our staff to get a PZ Commission and Town Council workshop going for the new amendments that we want to push through for our code. That won't be in the next meeting, but it's coming up.
Okay. Do you think it might be possible at that meeting to also have ADOT represented, and they could tell us about anything they've got coming down the pike, or at least get a report from them that you can share with us so that we kind of get the whole picture of ADOT county and town projects?
We'll see.
Great, thank you.
If you could indulge me, I actually co-chair the Pinell Partnership Transportation Committee, and I'd be happy to help facilitate that. We just did a committee meeting on transportation, so there's a lot of good information that I could get to Maricela to pass along.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Thank you.
I love that, thank you. With that, call to the Commission, current events.
I'll make a motion we adjourn at 6:28.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Vice Chair Adam and a second of that motion by Commissioner Capolongo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.